You're back on France 24 and you're watching Focus. We're taking a closer look this morning at Burma with just 2 days to go before crucial by-elections that are widely seen as a test of the regime's determination to democratize the country. Well, democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi has been campaigning throughout Burma, but there is one region where the voting will not take place, officially for security reasons, and that is the Kachin region in the north on the border with China. Fighting has been going on for months there between the regular army and ethnic Kachin rebels who are demanding more autonomy for their region. Watch this special France 24 report in the heart of the Kachin rebellion by Cyril Payen and Pierre Véraud.
A military training in a jungle camp in Burma's Golden Triangle. We are in Kachin state. For a year now, a civil war has raged. The rebels launched a general draft. Hundreds of men and women are now enrolling for the front line.
I can't wait to finally get a real gun and to fight for my country.
Liza, the rebel capital of the state, shelters 20,000 inhabitants. This fortress town on the Chinese border is in a state of heightened alert. A lucrative trade in the trafficking of precious stones and timber had brought prosperity. Now it's a regional outpost that marches to the rhythms of war. This footage, shot by Kachin rebels, shows heavy fighting. After a 17-year ceasefire, the Burmese government launched a major offensive to disarm the Kachin. It's an uneven struggle. The rebels are outnumbered 10-1. Hundreds have died. Tens of thousands have been displaced. This Liza hotel was transformed into a crisis command center. The greatest urgency now is to establish a humanitarian zone.
The Burmese government says we've rejected international aid. This is totally false. The United Nations must come to our aid, but they must give us direct assistance, not through the Burmese organizations who are seeking to infiltrate us.
Thousands of Kachin civilians are crammed into makeshift camps in Liza under the protection of the insurgents. They've been internally displaced by civil war in their own country. They are the first line of attack for the Burmese army.
The soldiers come to our villages and destroy everything. If I go home, I die.
The front lines are a short distance away, only a few kilometers outside of Liza. A guerrilla unit escorts us to outlooks on the outskirts of Kachin state. This fortress outpost is supposed to protect the rebel capital from Burmese offensives.
The Burmese soldiers are right there. You can see them.
Not only do we see them, but we can also hear them.
For 2 days, they call us pigs. They say they'll cook us and eat us.
It's prayer time for the resistance. In a Liza chapel, widows and the mothers of soldiers take turns praying 24 hours a day. The Kachins were evangelized a century ago. Faith here goes hand in hand with war.
I decided to pray every day until the fighting stops, but maybe I'll die without ever seeing peace.
For several months, the Burmese army's determination against the ethnic Kachin has grown. It's one of the many gray areas in the country's process of democratization.
And we're joined now over the phone from Bangkok by David Matheson, who's a senior researcher on Burma for the NGO Human Rights Watch. David, thanks for joining us. What are the Kachin rebels fighting for exactly? Is it increased autonomy? Is it full-fledged independence? Is it respect for human rights? What is it?
Well, I think it's fundamentally about respect for human rights. They've been fighting for 40, 50 years to be respected within the Union of Burma. And even though they might have had dreams of independence one day, I think more realistically they want greater forms of autonomy in Kachin state.
But officially there had been a ceasefire between the army and the ethnic Kachin people since the mid-90s, 1994. So why did fighting erupt again last June? What happened? What triggered that?
Well, I think there were numerous triggers that ended the ceasefire. Mostly it came as a result of years of pressure from the central government on the Kachin Independence Organization. They were excluded from the political process, even though they had actively tried to participate in writing the new constitution and preparing for the elections in 2010. But because of political pressure on them to actually disarm ahead of the election, that was one of the major factors leading to the ceasefire breaking down. But then, of course, there are a number of other reasons in the sense that you've got two relatively big armies facing off against each other in Kachin State. And then there's issues of the hydroelectric dams that China was building in Kachin State that were very contentious. And so it's a mixture of these kind of political, security, and economic reasons that caused the 17-year ceasefire to break down.
But one thing I don't understand is that when he came to power a year ago, the new president at that time signed ceasefire deals with rebels from various ethnic minorities. And it appeared to be at the time one of his priorities to settle the various conflicts within the country with the different Burmese ethnic minorities. So how come the ceasefire with the Kachins broke down?
Well, it certainly went against the trend, and it broke down because of the confrontation between the Kachin Independence Organization and the Burmese military. And people now are speculating that there is somehow a split between what the government of Burma wants and what the Burmese army want. But there's no evidence to suggest that there is a split between the army and the government. And in fact, the government should be making very clear to the army that they should be pulling back from abusing civilians in these areas. They've already displaced 75,000 people in 9 months of fighting. So basically, this is not a priority. Peace is not a priority for the Burmese government in the north because of mostly economic reasons. And they also want to send a signal to the rest of the ethnic groups that they're negotiating ceasefires with, which is basically, if you don't come to the table and if you don't submit, this is what you'll get.
Well, so you say peace is not a priority for the Burmese government. So where do you see this going? Is there any political solution ahead, or is that not a possibility?
I think it is a possibility in many other parts of the country. I think it is. Peace is a priority for the government in many other parts of Burma, especially Karen State and Shan State. But just signing ceasefire deals is not going to end decades of conflict and uneven development in a lot of these areas. But in the north, I think you've got very different dynamics at work in that the fighting's been going on for a very long time. The government has very lucrative economic deals in Kachin State, not just hydro dams, but there are two big Chinese energy pipelines running close by Kachin State, close to where the fighting has been taking place. And also very lucrative mining rights up there, which both sides want, the Kachin army and the Burmese army, and businesses connected to them want access to this.
All right, David Matheson, thank you very much. You're a senior researcher on Burma for Human Rights Watch. Thanks for that. And thank you for watching. News is back on France 24 in just a few moments. Bye-bye.